thank you because will be released. We thank you for utterance. Lord, we thank you because at the end of it all will be to the glory of your name. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you so much, Tolu Hajayi. Okay, so I'm sure everyone is super excited to, to join us on this call. I'm sure, okay, I can see Martins as well on the call. And I'm sure everyone is super excited because personally, I'm super glad that I'm on this call. All right, so thank you all for joining today's workshop. Is definitely all about the heart of script writing. My name is Esther Didribe, and I will be your co-host for today. Just a quick note that this call will be recorded. So I want everyone to be aware about that. And just in case you're in a very noisy environment, please do well to be muted. Probably immediately you join, or probably don't just forget yourself. Just keep muted in case you're in a noisy place. But if you want to ask any question, definitely there will be question and answer section. All right, so moving on to the call. I hope everyone can still hear me because I think the network is a bit slow. But in case you can still hear me, I would like to know in the chat box. Okay, thank you for that, Dotun. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so Bola holds a bachelor degree in theater arts from Redeemer University and a master degree in creative arts, specializing in dramatic theory and criticism from the University of Lagos. With over a decade of experience, Bola has worked on numerous projects as a script writer, production manager, production assistant, quality control, subtitler, wrangler, and more. He is a screenwriting tutor at the Ebony Creative Academy, where he has been for over 2 years. His utmost satisfaction comes from, assisting aspiring writers in developing their ideas into scripts suitable for the big screen. In addition, he teaches continuity and script supervision. Bola refers to himself as a story doctor, given his ability to help aspiring writers discover their unique voices. He firmly believes that structure is the only distinguishing factor between globally celebrated stories and others. To him, the script serves as the foundation upon which the rest of the filmmaking department finds expression. So please welcome with me on this call, Bola Daniel. You can please put in, some emojis in the chat box in case you're in a noisy place. I just want to know how excited everyone is, to have Bola Daniel on this call. All right, so Bola Daniel, I hope you're still on this call because I'm not sure if I can still see if it's here, but if you're here, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. First, I'm humbled and honored to be here this evening to speak to you on the art of film screenwriting. I believe this is a Christian gathering, as it were, because we are starting with the open prayer. All right, I would be sharing my screen this evening to aid my conversation with everyone this evening. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
lovely.
I can.
All right. So yeah, screenwriting. I'm sure a whole lot of you have heard different things about you know, I'm sure you must have seen different movies, you've seen different either on YouTube or on Netflix or Prime Amazon or different platforms, or even TVs and all. The first thing you must realize is that every production starts with a script. There are three processes of filmmaking: the pre-production process, the production process, and the post-production process. And the first process, that is the pre-production process, starts with a script. And I do not know if we have experienced writers on this call or we have wannabe writers. Either category you belong to. This conversation this evening is to put you on your journey. So welcome with me, and for the next few minutes, please listen to my voice. If you have questions, please, I would be excited to take our questions as we go together on a journey. All right, just in case you cannot hear me, just feel free to just interject. All right, I believe you're all with me. Can you all hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Lovely, lovely. Let's just hi. All right. For me, I've come to realize that screenwriting is the use of characters and dialogue to tell a story for an audiovisual medium. Right. So when you see movies, you have people that you can pinpoint, and say, oh, this person is the good person, is the bad person, and the way these persons pass across the idea is by dialogue. Now, screenwriting follows a trend, regardless of how you want to format your story or how you want to structure your story. There must be a story. From Charlie Chaplin, I'm sure you are familiar with Charlie Chaplin. From Charlie Chaplin to Lord of the Rings to Avengers Endgame to Mission Impossible to Fast and Furious to um, Passion of Christ, to War Room. All these movies, there are the use of characters and dialogue to tell a story for an audiovisual medium. I'm going to be defining these terms. I'm just trying to wet the ground so that we can all flow together in this conversation. Now, by characters, I mean recognizable people. I'm sure most have seen Mission Impossible. Well, I've seen Mission Impossible. That's Ethan Hunt. Tom Cruise. I'm sure most have seen either of James Bond's franchise. 007. Must have seen Fast and Furious. But then again, let me not be the one doing the conversation. What Christian movies have you all seen? If you've seen Christian movies, I just asked the question if you've seen Christian movies. I'd like to know the type of Christian movies or the names of Christian movies that you.
I would say War Room.
War Room. Okay, I said War Room first. So if I mention the film, please do not mention the film again because you're copying me basically. So I mentioned War Room. So do not say War Room. So give me another one, please.
I bet you.
Orange.
Okay. Yeah, that's Mount Zion. All right, which other one?
Orange.
Wakoma.
Oh, okay, Courage, Overcome. I don't know if you have seen Fireproof. Also, too, it's also a really, really nice movie.
Yes, Fireproof.
Fireproof, yeah. So, yeah, and in all these movies, you can tell who is the main person. You can tell who the protagonist is. You can tell who the antagonist is. You can tell what they want. And the whole story is rests on their shoulders, right? They are the ones that carry. You're watching them, pan out. By pan out, I mean move. We all did. I'm sure we all did English in primary and secondary school, and we had to write compositions and we had to do letter writings to our uncle in Abuja or the uncle in the village and say, dear uncle, my school will be going on break at this point and this point. I'm writing to inform that I'll be coming over to your place. Kiniko. A story basically has a beginning, middle, and an end. I'm sure you all know that. We'll get into that as we go on fully. I'm just trying to give an introduction to our conversation. This character, we see the character all through. He carries out the action or she carries out the action, in the story. We look at them and we know that, oh, at this point in time, this is where the character is. At every point in time the character is in the story, you get to know what the story, as the story unfolds, you see the character develop. But let's just go down according to our conversation. Now, by dialogues, I mean ideas, opinion of the characters orally passed across. These days, we do not do silent movies. By silent movies, I mean movies like Charlie Chaplin, where I'm sure you all know Charlie Chaplin's kind of movies, mimes and gesticulations and nuances without any words uttered. with the music in the background that would accentuate the pace. Please tell me you know Charlie Chaplin.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I
Okay, you
do.
do.
Yes.
Okay, Charlie Chaplin, lovely. So you all know what I'm talking about. Now, in these conversations, war room, Abejuye, there are dialogues, you know, there are conversations being passed across. You know, I say, oh, so interior living room night. Bola walks into the room and sits. His mother walks in from the inner room and says, "Oh, Bola, you know, are you okay?" That's dialogue, you know. And I go and say, "Oh, man, I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. I had a long day." Dialogue, right? And now by story, I mean a creative event, fictitious or not, with a beginning, middle, and an end that is woven around the life of the protagonist, right? Now, please note what I mean by what I insist on in this part of the conversation. The story has a beginning, a middle, and an end that is woven around the life of the protagonist, his goal, and other characters who are either for him or against him. I'm sure you all got that, right? The story again is a creative event, either realistically or either a past experience like the Fumla Ransom Kuti's movie,
Emi,
or
please.
come again. Can you stop? I'm lost. Was that
No,
for
please,
me?
please proceed. No, not for you.
Oh, all right, thank you very much. You know, Fumla Ransom Kuti, which is a true life, you know, event, or something like Jazzman Blue, which is kind of like a bit of what happened in that period of time. I don't know if you've seen Jazzman Blue by Tyler Perry. You know, it was the period where jazz music and soul music were in the rain, and so all Tyler Perry needed to do was to go back to that period and set a story there. You know, sometimes you see stories like Peaky Blinders. I don't know if you've seen Peaky Blinders, and you begin to ask yourself, when I saw Peaky Blinders, I had to go online and check if it was a real thing, you know, and I realized that in fact in that period there were people of that mindset, of that name, of that characteristics. So sometimes a story can, for instance, Titanic. You know, we know that Titanic was a true event. You know, we know that during the maiden voyage of the ship, it there was a, you know, tumultuous event and the ship sank. That was a true life event, right? And so it was non-fiction. But what James Cameron did, you know, and his team did, was to tell a story, a fictitious story across, you know, a non-fictitious occurrence, right? Okay, so we've gotten that character, dialogue, and story. Let's go on to our conversation furthermore. And I said audiovisual medium, you know, the use of screenwriting, is use of stories and characters to tell a story for the audiovisual medium. And by audiovisual, I mean radio. I'm sure you must have heard radio drama, you know, and what radio drama does is that it has the sound, it's hinged on sound because it's an audio medium, right? But then we'll go also to, we've all been to the cinema. I'm sure you must have been to the cinema at least once in your life. Tell me you have been to the cinema. Please, have you been to the cinema?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes,
glory.
so
You have been to
So,
the cinema. So that's lovely. You know, either when it was the time for I remember in 2015 when it was Fast and Furious 7, that was the main thing. Everybody that I knew was emotionally connected because Paul Walker had just died, you know, and it was the next thing that we were looking forward to after Paul Walker's death. You know, so either for the cinema or for the television, I'm sure we were watching Everyday People, Dear Mother, you know, for those of you us that are older, we have seen Things Fall Apart, the one that featured Pet Edochie and all. You know, we've seen Living in Bondage, Popular Hibiscus, different movies on YouTube. You must have seen different web series on YouTube, right? That's the audiovisual medium. By story world, I mean the space where characters hail from and carry out their action. So for instance, when you go to I don't know if you've seen Vampire Diaries. I'm just going to just run through different movies. Vampire Diaries was set in Mystic Falls. For all of us that are Vampire Diaries lovers, you know, different movies are set in specific places, right? Because the actions of the characters need to be believable according to the world that you have set. I'm sure a whole lot of us grew up watching Tom and Jerry, right? I love Tom and Jerry. You know, I mean the old version of Tom and Jerry, not the recent versions that we see on Cartoon Network and stuff. You know, in Tom and Jerry, from the story world, you realize that the character Jerry can swallow a bomb and will not die, right? He can, be shot a gun. Tom can be shot a gun, and then he would not die, right? In Vampire Diaries, Damon can stick out the heart of a character's, and bring out his heart. It's believable, right? So story world is where your characters carry out their action, is where they stay, is where they live, is where they do what they do. Then again, moving on, the character that we focus on, the character that we focus on in this conversation, Ultra movie, is the protagonist, the person that has the screen time. Now, I want to disabuse your mind from something that seems to be a trend when I've come to teach people over and again. The bad person, if for instance the story is about me, a character, not me, I'm not the character, a character that wants to end the world, that wants to kill half of the world. Let's say you want to tell a story about Adolf Hitler, right? I'm sure you all know Adolf Hitler if you did government or history in school, and the Second World War. I'm sure you all, well, a bit of you would know what I'm talking about. Say, for instance, you want to focus on Adolf Hitler and his life and how he became a, the general. Oh, have you ever realized that you can watch a movie and the bad person is the person in focus, and you get to feel for the bad person? Have you ever seen a movie like that, where the person that did the most evil, you get to feel for the person? Is because the person that in that context is the protagonist. The person has, we spend most of the time trying to make us emotionally, not us, I mean, make the audience emotionally connected, with the person. This character has a goal. He wants to achieve something, he wants to get something. So, for instance, if you're telling a story about Adolf Hitler, although we say he's the baddest person ever, in the 20th century, and if I want to tell a story, if I as a writer want to make you love Adolf Hitler and feel for him and empathize with him and say why he was the person that he turned out to be, I would make him the protagonist. So the protagonist, again, is the person that we focus on the most in the story. The person has the goal, he has something he wants to achieve, he has something that he wants to do. However, the antagonist is the person stopping him from what he wants to do. Again, the protagonist does not have to be a good person moralistically, right? The protagonist does not have to be a saintly person. Also, the antagonist does not have to be a good person, does not have to be the good person. Most times we say both an actor, and then in the general term, in the traditional term, we always say that, oh, the actor is the one that is a good person. He wants to stop the bomb from blowing, and the antagonist is the one that wants to blow the whole place. I don't know if you've seen The Specialist or you've seen Devil's Advocate. Again, I'm just sharing movies as they come to mind, because if you're going to be a writer, you have to watch movies. If you're going to be a writer, you have to read a whole lot, because you get ideas from all these things put together. Let's go to our conversation. Understanding screenwriting. All right, so going on. The protagonist is always on a journey to achieve a goal, either to save a damsel in distress, or on a quest to save the world. And then we have movies like Mission Impossible. You have your typical movie like all this love romance rom-com that you must have watched. He's going on a journey, he has a girl, he has to save the girl and stuff like that. So I'm sure you have a story, let's say story of one of the characters in the Bible, maybe Daniel or David, or perhaps you are fascinated about Samson. I am fascinated about Samson. I think Samson is such a tragic character that if anybody wants to write about Samson, you would set up Samson in a way that seems so believable. I'm sure you have 1,000,001 stories in your head you want to tell, but let's keep again flowing with this conversation. So, organizer, please do me a favor. Once it's like I'm 10 minutes towards the end of my time, just send me a message on WhatsApp, please, because I am going to get lost now. Did you get that, please?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's now go to our conversation. Right now, I know you have stories or you have ideas that you want to tell, So as I speak, either you take your pen and your jotter or your laptop and you type, or better still, as I speak, let the story develop in your mind, and immediately you get a chance to write it out. Right. So let's go to our conversation for my dear final draft. If you're excited, say glory.
Glory.
Hooray!
Glory.
Glory.
All right. From idea to final draft. Let's go. with our conversation. Now I realized that in writing there are 4 processes basically. There are 4 processes. I can decide to tell the story in a different way and say, oh, you have to start from the idea, you have to do this, you have to do that. But I realized that all these things can be summed up to 4 processes. The first is the evolution stage, the second is developing stage, the third is the structure, and the fourth is the part of the stage. So let's go with these notes, and please pay attention. If you have questions again, let me know at the end, or you can come attention to it. Right, the first one, evolve. Now, one thing you must know is that nothing is seemingly new. I think it was the Bible that says, but was it the Bible now? Nothing is new under the sun, right? And Ecclesiastes 3, gives us that there are times and there are seasons. And so what was will be, what was will be, and will continue to be, or without end. Are you there? So there's basically nothing that seems seemingly new, right? Same with your idea. I did something recently. I was teaching the class how to use Final Draft a while ago, and I showed them, and I started typing, trying to draft a story, right? I got back home that week, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me just freestyle or free write. If you write a lot, you just want to just sit back and just say, let me just test my hand on something and see how it works. So I did a bit of free writing, and it turned out to be about 6 pages, set in one location. It's just one scene, about 3-4 characters, and then I drafted 6 pages. I got to the academy, and in one of the conversations I was having my HOD, I'm like, oh, please go through and just read through. And as he read through, he opens his laptop, he opens the document, and then he shows me what he wrote in 2016. They were practically the same thing. Do you get? So nothing is seemingly new. I realized that you think that your ideas are genuine, that they're brilliant, they're fresh. I guarantee you somebody else has thought about that idea that you want to tell. Now, most of the movies that we have watched or we're watching at the moment, or that we're going to watch sometime in the future, have been recycled from the past. Take, for instance, Merry Men. I don't know if you've seen Merry Men, part 1, 2, or 3, but I just use part 1 for instance. Have you all seen Merry Men?
Yeah. 1, 2.
1 and 2.
Yes.
All right.
1 and 2.
The story basically is the typical Robin Hood story. Did you notice that?
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
It's
interesting.
a typical Robin Hood story. You rob from the rich and give to the
Robbie
poor.
Rich.
That's it. That's what the idea was about. The typical love story, Romeo and Juliet, set in Verona, where we are seen, where ancient mutiny. That's William Shakespeare. I'm trying to recite. I did fear that in the university, so I'm trying to recite the prologue for Romeo and Juliet. It's a love story basically, and you realize that the same story also took place. It's the same prototype basically for all the love movies that you see. Titanic, for instance, it's still love, right? The actual thing is love. Somebody is going to die at the end of the film. So basically, your ideas that you think that, oh my goodness, probably if you're like me when I'm in the bedroom or in the toilet, don't I get the best of ideas? I guarantee you, your ideas, somebody else have done something about these things, right? And now what you must do, what you must ask yourself is that, look, what is the new thing I am trying to tell about this familiar story, right? So stories ideas that you think that you have that are mind-blowing, that are on point, that you cannot wait to share with the world, I guarantee you somebody else has written something about it. So now what you need to do with the idea that you have, again, because this is a less than an hour conversation, I cannot go down to start breaking down certain things, right? But I believe that over time you would, I'm sure that this is a week-long or a series of activities that are going on, and I know that you guys are doing your best. So I'm sure you must have gone through different training, or you still go to further trainings, to help understand better. Now, the question you must ask yourself is that what new things am I telling about this story? What am I bringing into this story? You know, am I trying to make something out of nothing? Take, for instance, I don't know if you've seen Zorro. You know, Zorro, the Max guy. You know, I think it was Anthony. What's his name? What's his name? I
Antonio
keep
Banderas.
forgetting his name. I know Anthony Banderas, and the other guy, the other elderly guy. Can't remember his name now. You know, was also there, right? It's this. I can't remember his name. I would get something
Sir
Hopkins or something.
Anthony
You
Hopkins.
know,
Sir Anthony Hopkins.
was there. It's the same story with your spider. Thank you. I know something Hopkins, Anthony Hopkins, you know, and Banderas or something. You know, so it's the same thing with your Spider-Man, your Clark Kent, Smallville. You know, a superhero that wants to save the world, you know, but then also cannot show himself, and so he has to disguise himself, basically. And the only thing that made the difference for Zorro was that they set it in folklore. They set up a myth for Zorro, you know, and then they told that story. For Smallville, what did they say? Oh, the meteor, you know, and from there was meteor shower, and then a kid came, you know, and is a Kryptonian, and you know, as he grows older, he began to have super extraordinary powers. For Spider-Man, what happened? They went to the lab one day, and then a spider beat him. Right? So, what new thing am I telling in this story? How am I setting up the story? So, by evolving, I mean finding new ways to tell your story. Don't be in a hurry. I see people just sit back and they just want to open final draft or fading or writer's duet or whatever, you know, writing software they use, and they just start writing story. You would end up stuck or repeating already told stories. So it's quite pivotal to sit through your ideas and let them, you know, let them play with in your head. What I always do is that there are times I don't even try to write. I let the thing play in my head first, and it goes left and goes right, you know, and I'm like, okay, all right, let me now sit down and draft something in my notepad or something, you know, and mail to myself. Well, for me,
sorry, you can continue.
All right, thank you very much. You know, so sit through your ideas and try to find a new twist, a new set of conflicts, or a new area of resolution. Again, this is where research comes in, you know, because for you to know how to improve or what to find to tell, you'd have to go and see what has been done. Say, for instance, I'm going to tell a story about a man that is a transporter that drives fast cars. I'd have to go watch Transporter, the one we just started on part 1, 2, and 3. I'd have to watch Fast and Furious, you know, just to understand how to, you know, what is the norm and how to set something in that is different. Evolution, you have to find ways to evolve. What is the new thing I'm telling in this already told story? And that's the thing about Christian movies that I've come to say. I rarely watch Christian movies, you know, because they seem to just be the same thing as it was in the beginning, you know, so shall be, one without end. But I realized in the past few 5, 6 years, there's been new trend of thought in Christian movie storytelling or in Christian storytelling for the audiovisual medium. All right, let's go to the next one. Develop. Right? And this has a lot to do with your character and the story plot. Over time, we realized that we have created first stereotypical characters in the Nigerian Christian film over the years in our writings. The mother-in-law is the wicked one. The wife is the one that is always praying for the salvation of the family, etc., etc. I'm sure you must have seen it over and again. I think the year that War Room came out, War Room marked the beginning of a different trend, especially for Nigerian Christian filmmakers. I realized that the film on everybody's lips that year was War Room. You know, even in my church, I played it in my church. I played the War Room in my church that year. You know, because I'm like, damn, this is the most interesting thing since jollof rice and internet. You know, because this story was typical, basically, but the way the thing turned changed. Again, I'm sure you must have heard something about start from the known to the unknown. I don't know if you've heard of that statement before. Start from the known to the unknown. Your audience, basically, when you set your story, when you start your story, we see, for instance, a typical family, husband, wife, and children. The husband works, the wife is a realtor, sells houses. The daughter, is just a daughter in the black family in America. Excuse me, and I go on. Oh, okay, so this is not the usual thing. This is not the clinical. Again, I realized that most of the characters that we tell, they are flat and they have no depth. Take for instance, I say to my students in class, your character can be known by different ways. First off, who are they at home? So I'm asking you, Irawola, right? Who is your character? You don't have to answer me. I'm just asking a rhetorical question. Who is your character? Who is your protagonist? Who is your protagonist when the person is at work? Does your protagonist work? If he's at work, what kind of relationship does he have with his colleague at work? Is your protagonist married? Is he a father? Is he a husband? What is the relationship like? Is the protagonist a son? So I keep saying to my students, first of all, I'm the third one of three children. I'm not the third one of three children. So it means that I'm first a son to my parents. I'm the youngest sibling to my brothers, and then that's my life at home, growing up, right? And then I teach screenwriting at the academy where I work. So when I go to the academy, I don't bring the Bola of the last born. I bring the Bola, the teacher, right? And then when I'm hanging out with my colleagues, I'm not just Bola the teacher, I'm Bola with his contemporaries. When I go to church or go to social functions, I'm Bola the one that, rigmaroles with people, that is jovial and friendly. So in the same vein also, to when you want to set up your character or develop your character should be like the onion. Your character should have different layers. They can't just be one person and one person alone. Wow, 15 minutes more. Sweet Jesus, sweet Jesus. Okay, let's just fly through. Now, most times the characters are flat and have no depth in our stories, and the audience cannot relate to them. And this is because we have not given the characters interesting traits. Most times, the characters that we have created lack depth. For instance, you just see a story that the character is a pastor. Okay, so he's a pastor. Don't pastors have fun? Can't we explore the side of the pastor being beyond the church? Can't we explore the fact that the pastor is also human? Somebody posted something on Twitter. I don't know if you're very active on X. I'm really active on X. It said that a well-crafted story, I'm paraphrasing now, would make you root for a husband that is having an affair with his secretary at work, even when he does not have to, because of the way you set up your story. So how are you setting up your character? How are you developing your character? Most times we as writers want the audience to hate a particular character without any reason at all. And so from the beginning, we paint the character as evil without any genuine reason. I don't know if you've seen Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black. Has anyone seen Divorce in the Black by Tyler Perry?
Yeah, I binged it.
No.
All right. So it's one of the movies my online students, my online students saw, and I had to see also too, because we're discussing movies also, and we discuss characters, by the way. Sometimes you set up a character, you just want to hate the character. It's not like that. And if you watch certain movies, the people of Hollywood seem to understand. Hollywood will tell you a story about Lucifer, and they will have you cursing God if you're not careful. Of course, you've seen Lucifer, the series. I'm sure you must have seen. Yeah, they would make you say, and it's not that bad though. God is just so angry, Again, we fail to understand the power that we have as writers. We can make a bad person look good and a good person look bad. Again, they say the pen is what? Mightier than the what? Than the what? Than the what?
Than the sword.
Glory to Jesus. Okay, now because of time, to develop your character, ask the following questions. Why do they act the way they do? Right? Why does your character act the way they do? What is the character's social status? Why is my character? What is my character's academic qualification? Because your character will speak in a certain way if he or she is educated. You know, what is the story reason? Everything you do should always accentuate story reason, not because of vibes and inshallah. You'd have to write things that develops your story. Why does the older brother hate his younger brother? You know, we can say, let's say the story of Reuben, for instance. And in that story, talking about Reuben, we realize that Joseph was a bad person, right? You can tell the story of Absalom and realize that in that story, David was a bad father. Again, it's how you tell your story. You can tell a story. You know, one time I was thinking about it. What if I wrote a story about Saul, you know, and make people empathize with Saul? I mean, Saul, the first king of unified Israel, you know, Saul, the father of Jonathan. You know, because Saul had no model to follow. He had no Christian, he had no king of Israel to follow. He was the first king of Israel, right? So what if I want to tell a story about Saul? You know, what other sides can be explored about these characters, you know, or this character? What are their wants and their needs? You have to ask questions. Again, you have to know how to expand and explore the plot and subplots of your story. Again, it's on development. Now we ask for time. Structure. Again, I said at the beginning, there's the beginning, middle, and an end. You know, breaking it down, let me just go really fast. Setup is when we see, for instance, at the start of, are you all familiar with this term, setup, inciting, call to action? Please let me know if you're familiar with all these things I'm saying. Are you all familiar with them, please?
I think so.
Which one are you familiar with?
Do you mean the ones in the graph or the highlighted?
No, the one in the graph, they're the same thing. I just placed them out. Set up, you know, for instance, when you want to tell a story, you'd have to arrange in a way that we can understand. For me, one of the Lord of the Rings, the one by Peter Jackson from the earliest days of 2000 and down 2003. You know, the voice over at the beginning, when she goes, Yama, the world is changed. I feel it in the waters, I feel it in the air, what was once before. You know, how it started. It began with the forging of the rings. You know, one set for the elves, one for the dwarves, and one for kings, for men, whom above all wanted more power. And they were all deceived, for a great ring was forged in the mount of Mount Doom. Do you get the introduction? That is the setup, and then we go to the shy. And we see Loggins, we see Biggins, we see Gandalf, we see Mary and Pippin and Samwise Gamgee, right? And then we begin to now develop the story. So in your story, there has to be a structure. There has to be a structure. I don't know if you've seen Limitless, for instance. I think you should get to see Limitless. You know, it's Bradley Cooper was the actor in Limitless. You start up your story with someone that, say for instance, a writer has been working, sending application, but then all the applications have been denied. Then suddenly he comes across his ex-brother-in-law that says, "Oh, I have a," you know, these are the things in properly cooking your story. Say for instance, you want to cook soup, for instance, or stew. I suck at cooking anyway, so let's say you want to cook noodles. Would you first put the noodles? Either you put the noodles first, or you put the water first, or you do anything. The thing is that at the end of the day, there must be noodles that we must eat, right? But you realize that if you follow certain steps in making noodles, it comes out brilliant and awesome. What is the difference between when you cook and when a chef cooks? It's the arrangement, the right proportion of ingredients to be added. So basically, by structure, I mean the arrangement of the story in a favorable way. A story most times moves from the known to the unknown, right? However, we've seen people break the rules, where, for instance, you start with an accident. You know, you see a car rushing, and then boom, and you hear the voiceover. I'm sure you must be wondering how I got here at this point in time. Well, let me tell you my story. I'm sure you must have seen movies like that.
Yes.
You know, and then we now go back to the beginning.
Yes, sir.
That is a teenager. Thank you very much. You see that is a teenager that you know, is a nerd, is people do not like him, and he's going to turn 18, and something is trying to get money to go on prom, go to prom with this particular girl, the hottest girl, the girl in the class, you know, but he needs to get a gig to get money to buy the finest suit, you know, and he gets to. Do you understand? So there are ways you stack up emotions and you stack up the actions. So they're called major turning points. So if you want to search for them or search what I'm saying, just check online. Major turning point is storytelling, in script writing. You have the insight, the setup, the inciting incident, you know, the call to action, the first act climax, and then we go to second act that involves the conflicts, writing conflicts. By conflict, I mean that there is one major conflict, basically. Like in Lord of the Rings, the conflict was the destruction of the ring. That was the main thing for Lord of the Rings, right? But Frodo and Sam went through, you know, one time they feel like they have gotten to be at peace, but then they realize that there's something more. You know, have you all seen Lord of the Rings Part 1? Please tell me you have seen it.
Yes,
Yes,
Fellowship of the Rings.
yeah, Fellowship of the Ring. You know, it got to a particular point where they got into that place where Gandalf could not open, and Frodo could decode it, Khazad-dûm, you know, and where Frodo was stabbed with a spear by this terrible, ugly-looking thing. You know, we thought that Frodo was dead at that point in time, but then he did not die. There was when a betrayal that was given to him by Bilbo, his uncle. He got to a particular point in time when Gandalf was going to fall off, you know, and he says, "Fly, you fools." You know, so he keeps stacking things over and over and over and over and over again. You know, and then the third act is where things end and goes back to the normal world. So at the part 3 of Lord of the Rings is where the ring has been destroyed. Aragorn is made king. You know, Frodo, Sam gets married to his babe, and all these things happen, and then Frodo has to go on a journey. That's like the return back to the normal world. So that's structure. And this has to do with format. How do you write your script? You know, a script has to be formatted the right ways. There has to be a scene editing, action element, the character, parenthetical, the dialogue, all these things put together. There are countless softwares in scripting a screenplay. You know, professionally, you've been asked to use Final Draft, you know, but there's also fit in Writer's Duet. The list is not exhaustive. It is it's plenty, right? So it's plenty. There are different softwares to write your story, to write your script. Let's go on. Through vivid characters and a powerful narrative, viewers are taken on an emotional journey. Your responsibility as a writer basically is to take your audience on a journey, emotional journey. They have to key in and be sucked in. Have you ever watched a movie and you want to cry? Have you ever watched a movie and the next thing you want to do is just pick a gun? Have you ever seen a movie and you want to, you know, there's some movies that are banned in certain places because they are racist. Not racist per se, but there's movies that you watch and you want to beat down a white man because, for instance, if the movie is a colonial movie. There's this movie, I can't remember, this one with this girl, The Age You Give. Have you all seen The Age You Give?
Yes, sir. Amanda
Yeah.
Stenberg.
Yeah, I'm sure when you saw it, you wanted to just, you know, beat somebody up
I shed
that
a
was not
tear.
black.
Yes, I shed a tear.
Oh, I so kind. Could even cry. No, man, I just said, why? You know, so your movie, your writing should make your audience feel something. And they feel emotionally. And that's why I'm insistent on these things, what I said earlier, evolve your story, develop your story, structure it the right way, and then format it the proper way. People get their scripts turned down because it's not formatted the proper way. So if you need formatting class, it's a different thing entirely. Let's just go on. If you had more time, right? Because I know that we're for time right now. If you have more time, we'll have discussed setting up your story world, knowing the character, like character development, giving your character a voice, talking about dialogue, your step outline. You know, that's setting your scene editing with your action element, story treatment. All right, that's writing out your whole plot. You know, writing your first draft, writing a log line, and mentorship in writing. So yeah, connect with me My name is Bola Daniel across LinkedIn, across X, across Instagram _Bola Daniel, boladaniel.com. And thank you for having me. I do not want to shoot my time. I know time is fast spent. And yeah, so I think I have 2 minutes more. So please bill me. I am through with my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
so much, Bola. Thank you so much. All right, so I would like to, I can see in the chat box already, some persons are already putting, together, they are jamming their hands together already. Yeah, you can continue to do that. I think we should applaud Bola for that. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask your questions. If you are too shy, I think we have a link already, maybe in one of our groups. So you can probably just drop in your questions. But if you want to still raise your hand, okay, I can see Fife's hand raised. So if you have questions, please, you can unmute yourself if you're in a quiet place and then ask those questions. All right, so over to you, Fife.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, Bola, for the class. Sincerely, it was interesting, and I never saw script writing this way. Very quickly, for my question, I am asking, first of all, to the organizers, please, can Bola come again? Then two, what assignments will you give us, or kind of movies we can watch to help us develop our screen writing skills, or probably videos or materials or resources that we can use to develop our screenwriting skills? Thanks so much.
Right. What I can do is to share screenwriting books. That's what I can share. I can do because it depends on what kind of movies what you want to write that would influence what you want to watch. Say for instance, you want to write a thriller, for instance, or you want to write a horror movie. I would recommend, oh, have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? Based on what genre you want to write. But because we are pressed for time, the only thing I can say, I would go through my materials and say I can share some screenwriting textbooks with you, because they also make reference to movies. So please, organizers, remind me, maybe tomorrow. I would always share. I can share that with you.
All right, thank you, Bola.
All right, thank you for that, Bola. All right, so do we still have anyone with questions? If you have any question, you can still unmute yourself to ask. Okay, so while we are waiting for more questions, I can see in the chat box. Okay, so one of us is saying, I can't wait for season 2 of this training. All right, that's really amazing. All right, so let me just check in case we have any question. All right, so please give me about 30 seconds to open that. Okay, so do we have any more question? I think it'd be nice for us to ask questions. Don't be shy. All right, so I don't want anybody to be shy. Okay, so I can see another person in the chat. Okay, so I can see this question. Okay, so I hope Bola can hear me.
Yes, please go on.
Okay, so there's this question. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm sure that if I probably read it out, you will understand. Okay, so what does it mean to show and not tell in screenwriting? What does it mean to show and not tell in screenwriting?
Okay. All right, because screenwriting is an audiovisual medium. If you want to tell, go and write a novel, right? Because the novel has more time. You can have 1,000 pages of novel. But for screenwriting, for screen, do you watch Indian movies? I mean, the old Indian movies that go for 3 hours plus. Don't you get tired? You know, I get tired. But let me give you a scenario. What better way can you tell that a man is in an abusive relationship with his wife, being the fact that he is a victim? You can have, for instance, work with me, say interior, living room, day. right? Bola walks in, not Bola in Jesus now. I'm not going to have an abusive marriage. So let's say the character walks in, right? And the wife comes in and says, "Where are you coming from?" And he says, "Please, not tonight. And not tonight, please, not tonight." And I says, "No, I'm talking to you." And I say, "Please, now, not tonight. Now, I'm tired now. Look, the beating that you gave me yesterday, I don't like." No, now that's too much now. And that way you can tell it the same interior, living room, night. The protagonist runs out towards the door, followed closely by his wife with a eel in her hand. She throws the eel just as he opens the door to run out. She throws the eel, and then on the wall we see different holes from the eel. Do you get that kind of thing? Which is more visually appealing? The first one where Bola comes, where the character, not Bola in Jesus, where the character comes and says, "Not today now, not today now, tomorrow now, please now," or the one where we see the action. The second one, obviously. So that would mean by show and do not tell. Now, the thing is that the audience are really smart. I guarantee you, your audience are smart. Don't try and fulfill them every time. The more you do that, the more they feel abused because they're saying, "Am I that dog?" Basically. So that's what they mean by show, do not tell. Thank you.
Organizer.
Oh, so sorry. I got disconnected for about 20 seconds. All right, so sorry for that. Okay, so thank you so much, Bola. Do we have more questions? I think we have just about 5 more minutes to go. In case we have any more questions, please, this is just the best opportunity for you to ask. All right, please give us about maybe 2 seconds or let's say about 10 seconds more. Please, if in case you are shy, I think there is a link in one of our platforms, so I think you can just probably ask. Is Dotun on the call?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So I think in the absence of no other question, I think we should just probably call it a day. Are you giving me that permission to close the workshop?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So thank you so much, Bola, for joining us. We know, breaking away from your busy schedule can be a lot challenging, but we really want to take the time.
Sir.
Hello?
Hi, this is Martins. I just want to ask a quick question. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Bola, so much for the session. Very insightful. I heard it in passing. You mentioned that there are softwares for script writing. I don't know if you can mention one or two that you can just check out. Thank you.
You can check out Fade In. Fade In is really free, but then the only issue with Fade In is that it's watermarked. There's also Final Draft. I use Final Draft. I use the paid version for Final Draft. There's also a cracked version. There's also Writer's Duet, and a whole lot more. I think Celtex also too. Yeah, there's also Celtex. So I know there are free versions of this: Fade In, Celtex, Writer's Duet. There's also Studio Binder. Yes, Studio Binder. But because the academy where I teach, what is obtainable is Final Draft. So, and I've been there for about 3 years now. So I just say Final Draft and Fade In because it's free. The only issue with Fade In is that it's watermarked. Yeah, that's that.
All right, does that answer your question, Martins?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so thank you so much. I personally, I think I took note of a few things. You stated earlier that your character is like an onion. I wrote that down, and I think later on that we have to expand more on that. And then you stated something as well, that nothing is seemingly new. Someone else must have thought about that same idea, and what we just need to do is to evolve. All right, so I'm sure that all of us, we still need to go back to watch and also rewatch this, this section. Once again, thank you so much, Bola. We do not take this for granted. All right, bye everyone. In case you want to probably use the chat box to give a thumbs up, which I'm already saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see that already. Okay, thank you. Bye everyone.